But then after that, this is sort of a more, we kind of alluded to this in the review talk. I'll sort of group these in together, these two episodes. The Win Those Kids' Hearts and Relief for the Licensed Trainees.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like these episodes a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Me
too.
too.
All right. I mean, it gives us a nice view at like a little bit of a view like how the world is now working without All Might, like how Endeavor's trying to figure out how he's going to be a symbol to people, and meanwhile these kids are like, screw heroes. Our parents don't trust them after All Might retired, so why should we trust them?
Yeah, and do you remember the weather powered guy's name?
The power guy.
The guy that controls the wind, basically.
Inasa. Yeah, okay.
Inasa.
Yeah,
the one who
I thought it was really cool to bring him back, especially because like him and Todoroki like sort of have somewhat of a mutual understanding. They're like, oh, that guy sucks, because he's like, oh well, he didn't sign my autograph, and it is one of those things that's sort of interesting, and I think gets brought up well later. But yeah, no, I thought it was really cool just to see like just all three of them just getting, or four of them. There's the girl that's in the cat suit that was taking Cammy.
That was like out of the exam because Toga was taking her place.
Yeah. But I don't know. I did think the talk with Endeavor too was really cool. But even more so than that, I thought it was really cool to see Todoroki just be like, oh, well, I like just to see him be like, I know how to be a hero more than his dad does. Because obviously his dad like has the power, but he sort of lacks that empathy that Todoroki has, like an understanding of what these kids need to be better people in the world.
Yeah, which going back to Inasa, I mean that goes like the thing that really like turned Inasa off of Endeavor was like when he saw the look in his face when he like smacked him the autograph out of his hand and like pushed him back. He saw how much like hatred and like kind of like built up rage that Endeavor had back then, and he's just like, oh, that's not how a hero should be. They shouldn't be like that. They should be, someone looking forward who brings hope to people. And so when he meets Todoroki again and he has that same look because he's just ignoring him, it kind of pisses him off. And I like that they bring that back with Endeavor at the end. They just the way they drew Endeavor, like looking kind of peaceful when he tells his son, like, I want to be a hero you can be proud of, is pretty cool.
Yeah, especially because like you sort of, and we do actually get like a payoff for, but you sort of see it like in Todoroki's eyes, like, I get what you're saying, but you have to prove that to me. Like your words aren't, you can't just say, hey, I want you to be proud of me. Like you have to, treat the family, you have to like atone for all of your sins you've sort of left in the past. Like you can't just act like, oh, hey, everything's fine now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. And then I'll sort of, this is another group of 3 episodes that sort of go together.
Before
for it.
We move on to that. So I think one of the things I found interesting is in one of the previous seasons, I can't remember which one it is, but I think I can't remember who said it, but the hero's job, it was Nana Shimura, is to save not only a person's heart, but a person's soul. And so I think that's part of what they're trying to do in those 2 episodes is, kind of get these kids to trust that, heroes are people that not only save people, but, they also care for other people.
For sure. Because even like in the Stain arc prior, like it's like, oh, well, a couple of these heroes are only doing this because they get the glory and they get like the fame and fortune.
So I think to go along with that, I remember getting into a discussion with someone about this a while back when like this chapter first came out. Like they didn't get why it was important that these kids trusted like the hero students. They were like, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, where's the fight? And I was just like, well, I mean, it is kind of important because like Nana said, like you have to save not just them physically, but you also have to save them emotionally. You have to be able to like be there and give them comfort and hope, like during like a essentially emergency situation or some natural disaster, whatever you're saving them from. And it made sense to me, like, why, like, then, like, this arc just focuses on these 3 students, or maybe I guess these 4 students, but doesn't feature Deku at all, because Deku's already kind of, like, learned this firsthand.
No, for sure.
Through
Deku is one of the kids that was influenced by All Might, so, which I'm sure, like, a ton of people, it is interesting, especially because just that generational stuff of who different generations' heroes are, And a couple of people are like, oh, well, like these 5 and 6-year-olds are like, oh, well, All Might's not that powerful. Like he hasn't done anything while I've been alive. Whereas like Deku saw All Might like prime time. So of course everybody around his age group is going to be idolizing All Might.
Right. And I think, while they were in the license training, I think not only did that help the kids, but I think that also helped Bakugo out. Because, he's just he's, his main focus is to, just be the number one hero. He just wants to win. He doesn't really care about, saving people. He's just trying to.
He's slowly learning to like care about what others think and feel. Like I think it actually was like something that was a panel that was cut from this episode, but there's like a point where he's supposed to flash back to because he overheard the conversation between Todoroki and Deku, so he knows, the whole Endeavor background like stuff. So like in this moment where Todoroki's like saying like, "Oh, let me try it like my way that doesn't involve violence," Bakugo thinks back to like how Todoroki was raised and like, "Okay, well we'll let it try. I'll let you try your way."
For sure. And then after that, if we want to move on to the school festival, like getting ready for that.
Yeah.
Again, it's more like world building, like you were talking about, Alex. But I found myself kind of liking this, especially just because they give sort of side characters that are often cast off to the side like more time. Especially because I like the way they slowly hype up Gentle Criminal.
Oh yes.
Because even the small little thing of like, oh, here's the video that's about to play next, and it just shows his face, and then I think it like cuts to black, and I was like, wait, who was that? I thought was nice.
Yeah, and I think this comes up later. Like one of his videos where he's like robbing the convenience store or whatever. It's like you're gearing up for this fight with like the pro heroes that come in to stop him, and he's like, "La Brava, cut the tape," and then they cut back and he's won, and you're just like, "What happened? Who is this guy?"
Yeah, so you don't really know like what his power is supposed to be, which I'll wait to get to that part. But just all the festival moments, and then finally taking Eri to see like everybody getting ready for the festival.
Yeah, prepping her like because they're like, oh, she hasn't been around people in like ever, so maybe we should like have her do a trial run where she just shows up at the school, so that she's not freaked out by crowds.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good use of that. Just because, again, like this is just a kid. They're trying to get to be a kid again, and they're trying, like you guys were saying, they're trying to inspire hope. And it's like Deku really like puts it on himself. Like, if I can't help this one student out, then like what hero am I supposed to be?
Right. I mean, we also kind of saw that with Coda in like season 2.
For sure, yeah. Or I think Coda's season 3, right?
Or season 3,
season
I think.
Like the school festival,
it doesn't matter. I was just
yeah, we got the idea.
Continuity's sake. And then I guess is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we get to the Gentle fight?
I do like that they touch on it very briefly, but like Aries' power isn't like an end all be all. Like we'll use it to fix everything, because it seems to be tied into like her horn. Like her horn is shrunk now. Mm-hmm. She doesn't seem to be like exhibiting her powers anymore.
Yeah, I am hoping season 5. It's like, oh well, she got just enough horn power to bring Mirio back to his superhero self.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, it would make sense. Like, oh, okay, you got to build up something to do something like that. They're just doing it like whenever she wants. Otherwise, she'd just be broken. Like, oh, let me just go up to All Might and fix that
like
star.
Overhaul if they're like, oh, well, we're gonna start, using her powers for our needs now.
I mean, she'd make a great like a nurse. Like, she'd basically be the next recovery girl.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man. And I'll jump to the Gentle Criminal fight because it was really, because you're right, you're sort of building up Gentle as a villain because they don't show the footage of him fighting, and he's created like a semi-popular name for himself. But just that moment where Deku gets stuck in his like elasticity or plastic.
Yeah.
And he just has that like awkward face, like
going
through. I thought that was really funny, but it also set up a sort of like comedic fight scene. But what were you saying, Alex?
Yeah, like no, you're saying it's so comedic. Like Gentle's whole fight style is like he's a Looney Tunes character, right? Like he makes things bouncy. Sure people. He runs around. There's a straight up scene where him and LeBron are running, and it's just like it almost looks like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like they're just running in place while like the background moves behind them.
Which I'm not gonna lie. So I actually thought this. Well, this might not be a bold take. People might agree with this because there haven't been like amazing endings. I actually really love the ending to this second half of the season more than the opening, just because you get to see like all these characters, and I didn't know at the time like who Gentle was, who his assistant was, who I didn't know Todoroki had brothers and sisters, so I was like, who are these guys? And I didn't even know like Hawks' background, but I thought it was really cool, like being able to see Gentle's background and then connecting it to the scenes in the ending. But I'm not gonna lie, he has a pretty tragic backstory too, especially that moment where he uses his power and it just immediately like he used his power correctly, and it just happens that there's another hero there. So by circumstances, like he's viewed as like a mess up, and his family has to like handle all these lawsuits and everything. I was like, oh, rough, dude. Like,
like Gento is basically like Deku went wrong. Like if Deku hadn't, because the thing is with Deku does the same thing. He like runs into headfirst in danger, like especially in like the first or second episode to save Bakugo without any real plan to do anything. But he just kind of got lucked out, and that brought him to All Might, and here we are. But with Gento, it's like he's been flunking out of school. He's been like really hasn't putting his effort into it, which it kind of shows when he's here. He's fighting Deku. He's actually putting effort in. He has a great control of his powers. He just got really unfortunate.
And and it's one of those things where like even though it's a semi goofy power, he understands like the limitations and knows how to use it really well.
Right. Yeah, like when he breaks that steel beam.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh.
There were
and
so
he knows
many
like to leave the barriers up perfectly to like create problems for Deku's power.
Mm-hmm. But I mean that kind of ends up going against him with the with Deku's Air Force.
Yep.
Yeah, the Air Force, which it's something we haven't seen in a while, like the finger flicks, unless you've seen the movie. Like he hasn't used those kind of attacks since like season 2.
Right.
I was glad to see a return of the finger flicks. Because look, don't get me wrong, I like that they're like, oh, well, what are you gonna do like if you can't punch like All Might? And he's like, oh, I'll pave my own way and do kicks. It's like, yeah, kicks are cool, but just the raw coolness of flicking finger and it breaks like against Todoroki is like I get it's not like the smartest use of his power, but I'm like, ooh, yes, Punchy Man goes flicky and hand turn purple.
Yeah, but now his hands don't do that anymore. He can handle 20% for just a second. So he can do lots of flicks. He can do a shotgun.
Yeah. I really like the moment where like All Might's talking to, because Deku doesn't really, he sort of undermines like the progress he's made, because he's like, oh, well, I'm not All Might yet. And All Might's like, listen, dude, you're not supposed to be All Might yet. Here's like a step-by-step. You did this, and now you're at 20%. You can sustain that, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, so what should you do? And he's like, oh, like I can do this new power and figure out how that works. I thought that was an interesting development between like their relationship, because again, you sort of think of All Might because he is kind of like a meathead superhero in that like he's really strong, and most people think he wouldn't have to think because his quirk is that good. But it's like, oh, well, this guy still understands like basic combat stuff and understands how to progress like the power of All Might. Like he doesn't just limit to like, oh, well, I'm super strong, I don't need to worry about anything else.
Well, he was trained by Gran Torino, so that probably plays a part into it.
Oh, for sure. Hey, I missed Gran Torino. Oh, that was another thing that we didn't mention.
Yeah, we skipped over that. Holy crap!
Yeah.
With did they give him the name in the episode?
I don't think they did, but they run into teleport guy. I forget his name. And
they arrest him, I believe.
Yes, yeah. And then there's the behemoth that's in the forest.
Gigantomachia.
Yeah, Gigantomachia. Who's the same guy from Kirishima Flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that the same guy who was in Kirishima's flashbacks?
Yeah, he was. He also showed up at, like, I think the end of season 2. Like, there's like a scene where, like, all the League members are hearing about Stain going down, and they're, like, all being drawn to the League of Villains. And there's a guy in a forest with a radio around his neck, and that's Gigantomachia. Like, they set him up, like, 2 seasons ahead of time, but they didn't do anything with it until now.
Foreshadowing.
For sure. Yeah, no, I don't know. I was pretty like, oh, whoa, I feel like that's a bigger thing than we're letting on, because they were like, oh, well, we'll figure that out, like the school and everyone. But yeah, no, I definitely missed Gran Torino. I really like his presence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at least they gave him something to do while, like, he's not being part of this. Like, he's still out there, like, helping the police hunt down the League of Villains and Shigaraki, because he knows that All Might, you know, he won't be objective. If he meets with Shigaraki again, he'll try to reform him or save him, and Shigaraki will, like, get the upper hand.
For sure. And then after that one, it's basically the school festival gets to start. They catch Gentle. And
then we in the nick of time.
Yeah, yeah, really.
Yeah.
I was worried because they do sort of do it in like a 24 style 1 hour episode where they're like, oh, well, here's the clock. It's definitely ticking. Like, Deku's running out of time.
Yeah, I love that there's that one episode that just ends with 69 minutes until the performance.
Yeah. I was going to mention, I thought the outro of them interviewing Gentle and La Brava, I thought was really cool, because they're sort of like, listen, we get y'all are villains, but at the same time, are you really? Because, like, we kind of get you're doing this for show, but you were trying to be a hero at some point. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of Wreck-It Ralph. Like, you can be a bad guy, but you don't have to be a bad guy.
Oh, man. Especially because it just shows La Brava's devotion. But just moving on to the actual festival part, I thought this was awesome. I found myself, like, kind of slightly tearing up just because it's such a good performance and just sort of what it means to 1A as a unit, and what it means to who's the girl with the headphones?
Jira?
Yes, yeah, Jira. Like, just what it means to her, because you get that small background of, like, her parents being like, oh, well, if you want to be a hero, like, that's what you want to do. Like, just because we're musicians doesn't mean you have to follow in our footsteps. You can do both. I think makes for, like, a really powerful moment. Especially what really got me is just seeing, like, Eri, like, loving it in the crowd. Like, oh my God, this is what, like, happiness means. And, like, they do a brilliant shot animation wise where it just shows Overhaul's grasp being released on Eri, and she's allowed to be free now.
It
like,
just,
the shadow is wiped away.
It just hits you in the feels. Oh my gosh.
For sure. Yeah. Really, really good use of that. Also really, I guess I didn't touch on this part, but the two students that are like, I can't believe 1A is doing, like, a music performance because they think we need something like that, when they're the ones, like, causing all this drama. And that's sort of like what like gets Bakugo on board, which is funny in itself. But just to see them in the crowd, like, also singing along and, like, dancing the dance with it, I thought was a really good payoff.
And then they, like, apologize later. They're like, yeah, we loved it. We're sorry. Bye.
Oh, man. And just to see 1B do their weird Shakespearean Lord of the Rings.
What was it? It was like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and the Lord of the Rings or something like that?
Yeah, the Count of Monte Cristo, I want to say, too. But
it was Return of the King. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Harry Potter
it was
the Return of the King from the Prisoner of Azkaban, or something, like, crazy like that.
And I thought it was really funny that the two...
Oh, and Romeo and Juliet was in it too.
Yes, yeah, Romeo and Juliet was in it. The two, like, strong guys after Kirishima's just like, yeah, y'all's performance was great. And I was like, oh, he's definitely lying. But like, that's good. They have that moment.
Right.
I mean, like, yeah, like Kendo's performance in the but basically the whole like beauty festival was just a nice little moment, I guess.
Oh yeah. Then
go for it, man.
Oh, just since Nejire was also a third year, this was kind of her last chance to show what she's really made of. Just seeing the fact that she wins, that was also a really good moment.
I thought it was really cool because she doesn't get a moment to shine fight wise.
Yeah,
so I thought it was interesting for it to be like, oh well, I just have to accept like who I am and not try to be like other people. It's like a simple, I guess, premise, but it works really effectively in this episode.
Oh, it does.
And then I guess we'll move on to the Japanese hero billboard chart episode. Alex, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, sure. So it's like we're starting, and now we get to see all the current top 10 heroes and see how the world reacts to like Endeavor of all people being the new number one. A world where All Might is now effectively retired. And I love like the way that we get to introduce like each character. Like we see Ryuku again, but we see like new characters like Crust, who's super passionate about his job. We see Wash, who's a big meme because he's a freaking washing machine.
It's good you mentioned that one. Wash has become a character and has been memed a ton.
Yes, he is. People are like, he's the next number one. He's the strongest hero. Only he can defeat All for One. And there's like so much fan art of him like fighting like other villains from the series and just beating them with like suds and soap, and it's ridiculous, but I love it.
Speaking of,
also, someone told me that basically the way his like suit is designed, that he's the perfect hero to go against Stain because Stain couldn't be able to get blood like from him.
Well, but also that, but like what washes a stain out better than detergent?
Obviously, the joke like works really well. Even more so, I just thought it was funny because people were imagining like Stain being the one, like Stain coming back and Wash being like, it's number one hero time.
Yeah. So after Wash, I think we get like the samurai dude whose name I can't remember, who's number 7. He's like an old school kind of hero.
I think right before that we get Bunny Girl. I'm pretty sure.
Mirko.
Actually, no, she's number 5.
Oh, okay.
I remember that one.
I just said that because I remember her being like, "Oh, we're teaming up now, are we?" or something like that, like some snarky remark.
Yeah. Personally, I just see her as like female Bakugo. She's like, team up. Why would I ever do that? I'm gonna be the next number one. I don't need to team up with anybody.
Female
Even her expressions too. Like I feel like you could Photoshop Bakugo's face on her and it wouldn't change anything.
For sure.
Just Bakugo with bunny ears.
Yeah, I also thought.
Stop! You're gonna get somebody on Tumblr like erect.
I thought it was cool because I got to see Hawks sort of introduced in the movie, but I didn't realize he was going to be like a huge character in the show.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting.
I don't think anybody did.
He's like so laid back, but at the same time he's not afraid to like poke the hornet's nest because, like he points out, everyone's like celebrating Best Genius, who's like the number 1 in popularity, but is like number 3 in ranking. And he's like, it's kind of weird how like the number 1 hero right now is so low ranked.
For sure.
Which then he pass it off to Endeavor. He's like, here, now you follow up with that. What are you going to say to that?
Yeah, I thought, like, especially just because because I didn't realize he was going to be like, before All Might even retires, he's number 3. Because they show that sign and it's All Might, Endeavor, and then Hawks like right near them on like a 3rd plateau. And then you see him like in the 2 spot. And like you were mentioning, he's just so nonchalant that you're like, how did this 22-year-old become the 2nd like greatest hero of all time?
Of like the current age, yeah. It's like, what? How did this happen?
Yeah, which makes I actually did like the use of Endeavor in that, where he's just like, if you don't believe in me, watch me, or something like that. Like, and he just drops the mic.
Yeah. He's just like, what more can be said? You don't believe in me? Just watch me. I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah. But I was gonna
I've got
say,
a badass new suit and everything.
Were his flames in that moment? Were they CGI?
His flames?
Just when he's on stage, they looked different than they do normally.
I think it's just because the way they're trying to draw him. He's not like he's still angry, like not really angry, but he's still like.
But he's more like
fierce,
regal.
He's not like.
I guess.
Yeah, he's not a rage. He's not a rageaholic at this point. He's just like, just very tense. He's hard to approach. Like we'll get to in the next episode. Or actually, no, it's this episode, right? Where he tries to talk to that kid.
Yes, yeah, because they have that interesting moment, which I think is like good character building, where they sort of show off Hawks, and you sort of get an understanding because he's like, oh well, we need to team up. I have a rumor, you need to know about it. And Endeavor's like, oh well, let's tell me the rumor, and he's like, oh well, we got to go to this chicken place because it's my favorite. So,
which I love that, by the way, that the dude with bird wings loves to eat chicken.
Yep, it's so funny. And just the fact that when Hawks and Endeavor are like in the public, the two differing like people of Hawks being, everybody's like, hey, what's up, Hawks? And he's like, nothing much, just hanging about. And they're like, oh, he's such a great hero. And even the people that like love Endeavor are like, well, I can't talk to him. He's going to burn me alive.
Yeah. And also, like, just the way, like, if you're watching that scene again, like, Hawks is, like, barely paying attention as his feathers are flying around, like, picking up, like, little old ladies' luggage, helping dogs across the street. He's just, like, not even paying attention. And, like, Endeavor's looking at all of it, like, kind of taking it all in. Like, because like, he's about to react because it's his instinct as the hero to jump in. But he doesn't need to here because Hawks has it covered.